Hello and welcome to Written Words, and today's video is how to write a play. I will begin by saying that I am not a successful playwright. I haven't written lots of plays that have been performed in the theatre, but I know some people who have. So I'm going to take a look at the work of some well-known and very successful playwrights and see what lessons we can learn from them about writing plays. In my previous video, we looked at An Inspector Calls by J.B. Priestley. So we're going to refer to that in the video. Then there is another text that is also very popular at GCSE level, which is Blood Brothers. It's another modern play. It's more modern than An Inspector Calls. It's based in Liverpool in the 1980s. And it's very different in style to An Inspector Calls. And then, of course, there is the most important playwright of all time, Mr. Shakespeare. So what are the similarities and differences between writing novels and writing plays? In both novels and plays, you need a really good storyline. You need a compelling plot, and it needs to be well structured, and the pacing needs to be good. You need believable characters that are convincing and make the audience or the reader care about them. If you are writing a play, then an actor who plays a character will be an important factor in this. But first of all, they need a good script to work from. So what's different about playwriting and novel writing? First of all, plays are designed to be performed. The words on the page are designed to be read aloud. So the words have to sound good when spoken aloud. Then, with a play, there are lots of visual aspects. There is scenery, there are costumes, gestures, lighting, special effects. All of those things can help convey meanings besides what the characters are actually saying. Also, actors can vary their tone of voice. Two different actors could speak the same line in two very different ways. A playwright has stage directions at their disposal as well, and that allows the writer to specify particular things, to specify how the characters speak, what the setting should look like, what the lighting should be, or any special effects that are required. In Shakespeare, you will find much fewer stage directions than in modern plays like An Inspector Calls or Blood Brothers. An Inspector Calls, for example, opens with a page and a half of stage directions, telling the actors what the characters need to be like, telling the stage managers how to set up the stage, specifying the kind of furniture required and the atmosphere they need to create. The general effect is substantial and heavily comfortable, but not cosy and home-like, for example. On the first page of Blood Brothers, we're given a stage direction. The lights come up to show a reenactment of the final moments of the play, the deaths of Mickey and Edward. The scene fades. Mrs. Johnson enters with her back to the audience. So again, some very specific stage directions. There are much fewer stage directions in Shakespeare, but he does use some. Macbeth begins with the instruction, a desert place, thunder and lightning, enter 3 witches. So he gives some instructions as to how the stage is to be set up at the beginning of the play. A play, unlike a novel, can be very different each time it is performed. With a novel, whoever reads it, the words are the same on the page. They might imagine it differently, but the actual novel itself remains the same, whereas a play is much more dynamic. When it's performed, no two interpretations will be exactly the same. The costumes will be different, the actors will be different, they will place different emphasis on different words, and so on. Unlike a novel, a play is generally consumed in one sitting. People go to the theatre and expect to see the whole play from beginning to end, whereas with a novel, you can read a chapter here and there, put it down, go away, do a few other things, come back and read it over a period of several days, weeks, or even months. Both novels and plays have audiences, but the audience for a play is physically present during the performance and has much more impact on how it goes. Let's look now at the overall format and structure of playwriting. The layout on the page is very different. Because the text consists of dialogue and stage directions, it's important to specify in the dialogue who is speaking and to make the stage directions distinct from the dialogue. Here in this copy of An Inspector Calls, the characters' names are written in capital letters so that you can distinguish between the characters' names and what it is they're saying. And also, if you look very carefully, the stage directions are written in brackets and in italics so that they're very distinct from the rest of the text. And this copy of Blood Brothers is very similar. Instead of capitals, the characters' names are written in bold, and the stage directions are again in italics. And then looking at my very large copy of the complete works of Shakespeare, it's a little bit different because there is the question of space, because Shakespeare wrote a lot of works, so in order to fit them all into one book, you have to use a few methods to shorten things. So the character names are abbreviated: K. Rich, King Richard, and so on. But they are in italics to differentiate between the rest of the text. Plays are also generally divided into acts. A Shakespeare play will be divided into acts, 4 or 5 acts, and then the acts themselves are subdivided into scenes. An Inspector Calls is in 3 acts, but there aren't any scene subdivisions, and in Blood Brothers there are 2 acts, again with no scene subdivisions. And usually when you're performing a play, the break between acts is when you would have the interval, when the audience can have a little rest, get up, stretch their legs a little, have a drink, and so on before the next act carries on. In a play, the story is usually conveyed mainly through dialogue. There are people on the stage and they are speaking, so it's important to construct the dialogue so that it sounds natural, but it conveys the necessary information. There are some exceptions, however. In Blood Brothers, for example, there is a narrator who regularly appears and comments on what's happening to add extra information to what's been going on with the characters. There are other ways also of adding to the story, not just through the dialogue. Plays can make use of other things such as music, audience participation, special effects, sound effects, and so on. The costumes that the actors wear can convey a message. More traditional performances of Shakespeare, for example, would use costumes from the period in which the play was written. So they would use historically accurate costumes, whereas some more modern experimental interpretations would have the actors in modern clothing. Staging a play is a collaborative activity, so that can lead to changes being made to the original script to better suit the actors or the stage setup, the audience expectations, and so on. So it's not unusual for a play to be slightly different after a while when it's been performed a few times to how it originally was when the playwright first put pen to paper. Scholars studying Shakespeare, for example, encounter different versions of Shakespeare plays, presumably because things have been changed along the way, because one particular actor preferred to do this way, a director preferred to have the stage set up this way, and so on. So when you go to a theatre to watch a play, what you are getting is so much more than simply the words on the script. So writing a play is about much more than writing the characters' words. You need to think about what they're doing, what their body language is going to be like, what the scenery needs to look like, the logistics of the scenery and the actors, where they are on the stage. If one character is on one side of the stage and another character is on the other side of the stage, they can't whisper in each other's ears, for example. Blood Brothers is the perfect example of this, because Blood Brothers is not simply a play. It's a musical. It was written to go with music. So there are songs in it. There is music. So the music adds an extra dimension to the text. So because plays are not just about writing words, but about bringing them to life physically with people in a theatre, many playwrights, Shakespeare himself included, have come to writing plays through acting. Many playwrights have been actors themselves, and because of that they understand how the theatre works and what's involved in producing a play. So if you're thinking about having a go at playwriting, why not begin by finding a local drama group and getting involved with one of their productions as an actor or behind the scenes to give you some more insight about the theatre and how it works and what a playwright needs to consider beyond the words that are spoken. And finally, a little bit of language focus. Let's take a look at the word playwright. It's a very interesting word and very often misunderstood and misspelt. If we talk about playwriting, that is the act of writing plays. So in the word playwriting, writing is spelt the same as the action of writing with a pen. However, a playwright, a person who writes plays, is spelt differently, because a write is a very old word meaning a maker or a builder of things. So you can also have a shipwright, someone who builds ships, and a wheelwright would be a person who made wheels, typically for carts for horses to pull. And the word write comes from the same root as the word wrought. It was an old past tense of work, and that's where we get words like wrought iron. So you could say that the play was well wrought by the playwright. So hopefully this video has given you a few ideas of things to consider if you're thinking of putting pen to paper and writing plays. It is of course interesting to read plays like these and very entertaining as well, but there is no replacement for actually going to the theatre and seeing a good production of a good play. My next video is going to be finishing off the series of GCSE texts, and we're going to be looking at the poetry anthology and specifically the poems on war and conflict. So if you're studying for GCSE or you simply enjoy poetry, do join me in my next video. So it just remains for me to say thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and in the meantime, happy reading and happy writing.